everybody. Welcome to another episode of Water is the New Gold. I'm Tommy V, your water doctor. Today I want to talk about the EPA, or more specifically, Donald Trump taking a chainsaw and ripping through the organization. Is this a good thing or is it a bad thing? Well, I'm here to tell you it's a good thing. Now, before you start calling me a Trumpster and a guy that wants to kill the environment, in my case, it happens that I've spent 30 years of my life fixing water, minimizing waste. I am the founder of a company called Glamorous. We invented a biochar substance to take rice husks, mitigate climate change by absorbing CO2 and making more efficient cement. And if you want to go to my website and check out my CV, I'm happy to compare my credentials with anybody that's in the environmental industry. So your question might be, how the hell can you be an environmentalist? How can you have a record of helping the environment, but at the same time you are in favor of what Trump is doing to the EPA? So the first thing I want to talk about, the first reason for this, is because we sometimes assume that because someone has a PhD, that makes them an expert, and we should defer and listen to them. And indeed, most Americans aren't scientific, don't have PhDs, don't have science degrees, so it's only natural that when we see that, we think that this person is expressing the truth. But that degree, that title, doesn't necessarily imply competence. And if you think about, we have the Super Bowl coming up, and if you think about NFL quarterbacks, they all have a contract, which is the entry level to become an NFL quarterback, but certainly not everybody's Tom Brady. There are doctors that have the degree and those credentials to pass the state board, but there are doctors that are good, there's doctors that are not so good, mechanics that are good, mechanics that are not so good. So one of the problems and things that I would like to see improve with the way we Americans think is that we need to hold these PhDs, these scientists, to a higher standard and not just accept because they don't have a degree that's way above us that we need to accept what the heck it is they're saying. So my second reason for not being afraid of the EPA being eviscerated and actually supporting it is because over the period of time, the EPA has been confused about what its responsibilities are. In their doctrine, they have a responsibility to protect the environment, but also to keep you and I safe. Now, that sounds really like a good idea, but when you start looking at what the EPA does, they're not really adhering to those standards. For instance, not long ago, the EPA accidentally dumped 3 million gallons of chromate and heavy metal containing water into the Animas River, a tributary of the Colorado River, which means it got into our drinking water. Now, in that case, if it was an industry that did that, heads would roll. People would go to jail, they'd lose their jobs. But because the EPA did this, you never really heard much more about it. Same thing with Flint, Michigan. You have lead poisoning in water, but then, what else happened here? And you take a look at, for instance, there's a place in California called Lake Davis, and all the communities in that lake, I guess, are trout fishing resorts. So years ago, northern pike started to overtake the trout. Now, in my estimation, that's something that doesn't require you and I to get involved with. If we're naturalists, if we're conservationists, if we want to leave the earth alone, the northern pike eating the trout, while it was bad for economics, should have just gone without notice. But the EPA now, who's designed to protect us, decides to start putting a carcinogenic substance called rotenone into the water to kill the northern pike. And they had to do this a couple different times because I guess it didn't really succeed in doing what they want, but they kept putting this carcinogenic into the water. So now think about this. You have these PhDs, and we want to respect them. They have labels on this substance called rotenone that says it's carcinogenic and we need to stay away from it. But then, especially for you guys that don't like corporate influence and you think corporations are screwing us, the EPA looked at the economic pressures of these trout communities and decided, okay, let's put this carcinogenic material into the drinking water. So either the carcinogenic material should be kept out of our water, or it's not carcinogenic and let's just throw it wherever the hell. You can't have it both ways. So hence, that's part of the reason I don't really respect the EPA, or at least I respect the organization, but I think the people involved are really polluted with political agenda and payola and whatever it is. I don't want to accuse anybody, but their actions, take away the politics, the accusations, you take away, you take a look then at the actions, and there's just something not right here. And finally, the third reason I am for the upheaval in the EPA has to do with water, my specialty. We have the most beautiful document in the world to protect us and give us safe drinking water, and it's called the Safe Drinking Water Act. And all municipalities are bound by law to give that particular water to us to drink. Is it safe or is it not? I don't know, but it is the best set of standards that we have. So that's our pinnacle. In 2022, 65 to 75 million people drank poisoned tap water. 1,000 municipalities failed to meet the Safe Drinking Water Act. Now, in that, we have this document, and you have all these folks, all these Americans getting poisoned. And again, what are the corrections that are being made? Who are the people that are being fired? Who are the people that are being prosecuted for this? You can't have it both ways. If you have an organization that's here to protect you, then they have to protect you. And you can't give exclusions for, well, we want to save the trout, so we're going to poison some people and kill you just can't have it that way. So in my estimation, what Donald Trump is doing to the EPA needs to be done. But the second part of that is he's got to replace people with people that are not driven by political agenda, that aren't funded to perform a study. People call all the time, you hear a PhD, a doctor will talk about all the studies he's done. Well, if you think about it, who does a study? A student does a study. I'm looking for people that have credentials, that have documentation. If you work in water, I don't want to hear what you studied and what you looked at. I want to hear what problems you solved. Who did you save from poisoned drinking water? What waste have you taken out of the environment and recycled? How have you helped the environment? Your degree means nothing to me. So this shakeup is called for. How Trump fills those gaps remains to be seen, but I think this is a good first step, and I think it's going to be good for us. Again, thanks for tuning in. I invite you to check out my website, www.wateristheNewGold.com. Check out my book. It's back there, Open Tap, Drink Poison. I hope you subscribe to my channel, and as always, I love to hear questions. Let's talk about our water, and of course, water is the new gold.